Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Ashley, and welcome to my space here. This is my bi-weekly relationship toolbox, and this week's message is self-pleasure to uncover buried treasure. This is going to be a sensual exploration, so I'm going to take you on a little treasure hunt to reunite with your senses. I'm feeling this energy of sensuality and really needing to come back to the present moment to get out of our busy minds. And it is Gemini season, so it's air sign, and it has a lot of mental chatter. So that's kind of what I want to bring your awareness to, is our senses, so that we can kind of not be so attached to that mental chatter that is full of because I'm going to teach you a little bit about the subconscious mind and really doing a little bit of shadow work. So what we tend to have is a lot of shame around sensuality, exploring our senses, really connecting very deeply and intimately to our own bodies, to our own vessels. This is our soul's home, and I think that it's really important that we invest in this home. Think about how much time and energy and even money you invest into your physical home, making it a beautiful place, but how often do you invest in your soul's home and making your inner vision a beautiful place? So that's kind of what we're going to do here. We're going to go both ends of the senses. So we're going to do our physical senses and then also like our spiritual senses. So because we are going to start with sight, but also I want to invite you first, before you get comfy, because I want you to create a little space for yourself. You can do this anywhere in your home. I brought some props today, so since I'm inviting you to use your senses, you can maybe light a candle. I'm inviting you, this is my favorite part, I'm inviting you to bring a snack today, your favorite snack, whatever it is. It does not matter the snack. It can be like the most awful thing for you. It does not matter. Whatever you want to bring a little snack, please. Maybe bring something to drink. It can be hot, it can be cold, some tea, some coffee. Because like I said, we're going to explore our senses, go on a little treasure hunt, and uncover pleasure again. Because a lot of us abuse our senses, right? We're abusing our sight with technology and constantly being bombarded on we're always on our phones, checking our phones. We're always sitting in front of a computer. We're always downloading information. Our vision is really abused. And one reason I love visualization is because it really allows for us to create like an inner world, and like that this outside of us isn't the only thing that exists, and finding using our vision not to just be abused to like numb us, because so many of us are numb, that we're numb to our senses, that nothing feels good anymore. We don't have pleasure. Most of us are so used to we're addicted to stress and tension and chaos, and so it's more normal for us to feel lots of pain and heaviness in our body, but that's actually not normal at all, guys. And it's really important to reunite with your senses and to really create these boundaries and to create these own understandings of your senses, and like knowing what stimulates you, knowing what overstimulates you, knowing where to cut back on certain things, and this really helps to strengthen and fine-tune, just like a vehicle, fine-tune your senses so that you can use, because our senses are how we operate through Earth, but a lot of us, we're taught here on Earth that our mind is the only thing, that our thoughts, we're so identified with thought that we don't allow our sensations, our feelings, because feeling good should be our natural state, and the law of attraction kind of teaches us to always search for the best next feeling, to keep searching for the next best feeling, and this comes with thought. So creating sensation through thought, and thought and feeling are very much connected, because the mind and the body are one, and you notice as soon as you begin to think about all the stresses in your life, you'll begin to feel that stress and tension in your body. So what we really have to do is kind of catch those thoughts, and where can we begin to generate thoughts of love and peace and health and wellness and joy and pleasure. We want to feel pleasure again. So really, when we can come back to our senses and we can begin to pinpoint and poke out and point out the things that add beauty to our lives, and we begin to use those things externally to decorate our internal world, then we're no longer relying on those egoic thoughts that are illusory, that aren't real, because a lot of times our mind is, stuck in the past, and it's dwelling on some past scenario, or it's jumping to the future and trying to predict what's going to happen next. So it's trying to prepare you for something. So the mind isn't, the opposite of the mind is present. So really being present with our body, and every time. And so this is a practice, guys. Really reuniting with your sensuality is a practice, and you have to do things that really reunite you with your senses. But as you do this, you rediscover pleasure, and then you find pleasure in almost the mundane things, because that's kind of what my whole point is here. So we should be feeling pleasure most of the day by doing the things that we love, but a lot of us are taught to, look outside of ourselves to evoke the feeling of pleasure, and then we become dependent on those things. So that's when we become dependent on like people, or we become dependent on emotions for people to make us we may not know how to evoke the feeling of love, and so we depend on it from the outside, whether it be from our children or whether it be from a spouse or a partner or a friend, and if they can't love us at that moment, if they're not able to extend us love, then maybe we don't feel lovable and we don't feel worthy of love. But what we're really learning how to do is to cultivate the awareness of our senses so that we can begin to generate the feeling of love all on our own, because at the core of who we are is love. And so love is not outside of us, and it's something that we don't need to necessarily seek. Just like pleasure is something that is not outside of us. Pleasure doesn't come just from, sexual interaction. Pleasure comes from, gentle touch, and pleasure comes from, all of our senses, from hearing beautiful things to seeing beautiful things, smelling beautiful things, tasting beautiful things, and really beginning to find and point out the beauty that surrounds us in every moment. So every time your mind begins to drift into negative thinking and you begin to feel that stress and that tension in your body, where can you pull yourself back to your senses? What are you hearing around you? I hear the birds chirping. I hear, gentle music playing. Bringing yourself back to your senses. What am I seeing? Do I see a beautiful tree? Do I see a beautiful bird? Do I see someone, what do I see? Come back to your senses. What are you smelling? Do I smell this smell of rain? Do I smell cookies baking? Bringing yourself back to your senses every single time. And so we're going to start with, our eyes. So that's the first sense I'm going to start with. And like I was saying, where can you point out in your environment, where you are now, sitting at this very moment, what can you point out that you like? Even if you've been, this is my home and I've been in here, every single day. So when we're in those environments, think about your work environment too. You're there every single day, and it becomes kind of mundane. It becomes and you're not finding the joy, you're not finding the pleasure in it anymore. And so you begin to, your mind begins to wander, and you're seeking that feeling that you're wanting to experience that you're not experiencing now. Instead of coming back to your senses and generating yourself, you're using your mind to rely on a past sensation, or you're anticipating a sensation in the future, and it's not solidified. So really embodying and being present with your body allows for you to generate those feelings whenever you're needing pleasure, or whenever you're needing to feel happy, or you're needing to feel joy, instead of seeking outside of yourself, whether it be to scroll the gram, or to have a cigarette, or whatever an unhealthy toxic habit is, to come back to your senses and be like, how can I make myself feel good right now? Because that's what we do to raise our vibration. How can I make myself feel better in this moment? Can I think more positive thoughts? Can I move my body in a way that feels good, like touch? That's another one of our senses. But so bringing your sight, bringing your awareness. So we're bringing our awareness to what is beautiful in our space. I see a painting in front of me that has beautiful colors. What can you point at? I see a picture of my brother when he was little. How cute. I can look out the windows and I see the beautiful trees, and I see a wind chime, and, I see, there can be all different kinds of things that you're seeing. So really bring yourself, and even things on your body. Do you point out the things you like in your body? Instead of, a lot of us get caught up in the things that we don't like, and we're pointing out the things about our bodies that we don't like, instead of pointing out the things we do like. And so you have to voice these things. You can be sitting quietly, even if you're watching TV, and you're still bringing your awareness back to your senses. What am I smelling? What am I hearing? Even if you're watching something, what are you feeling while you're, in the present moment? And really getting in tune to our feelings really helps us to navigate our emotions and regulate them a lot more with a lot more ease, with a lot more understanding and compassion. And then we no longer reach to those things outside of us in order to fulfill us or make us feel good, and we really are generating it within our own self, with our own connection to our senses. And our senses are our connection to source, our connection to the world. They connect us. And a lot, like our society is just built upon abusing these different pleasures, so or abusing these certain sensations, so that because they don't want us to feel pleasure. I'm sorry, it's about like suppressing pleasure. And really, when we abuse pleasure, then we're going to seek outside of us and we're going to consume, and that's exactly what they want us to do, is to consume so that they profit, and it's really a messed up system, honestly. When they use our insecurities and our flaws against us as a way to, like I said, make more money, to gain a profit. But this really allows us to take our power back, honestly, is reuniting with our senses. And I think it's really important now more than ever to find pleasure, because there is so much pain. But guys, the contrast of pain, because all the grief and all the pain and all the heartbreak and all the violence and all the painful things that are happening on this earth, the contrast to them is pleasure. So we have to find the pleasure amidst the pain, because if we do not, we are going to continue to repeat history, and we're going to be stuck in pain. And we're not slaves to the body. No way. The body is our home. It is our temple. It is our vessel. It is our sanctuary. That's where we go to find peace. It's where we go to find solace. It's the place we go to go home. When I want to reunite with spirit, when I feel completely defeated, when I'm feeling completely challenged, or I'm suffering, or I am in pain, it's the only thing we have is our body. So being able to nurture that and really nurture our senses rather than abuse them will really help us to take care of ourselves. And then we're creating pleasure, and as we create more pleasure, it gives other people permission to feel pleasure too, because our birthright is pleasure. It's joy, it's peace, and like feeling connected. And when we connect to our senses, we're connecting to a deeper part of us, and that's why it's like really an exploration. And you'll uncover so many things about you guys. I had no idea that I loved to dance and to touch my body and to like just be with my body. Like I was totally distracting myself from being in my body because I was in so much pain. My body was feeling so much pain. My body was so heavy that I didn't want to be there. And so like it was like a prison to be in my body. But our bodies should not feel like prison. They should feel free. And every time our bodies don't feel free or they don't feel pleasure, that's an indication that we need to dig a little deeper, to go on a little treasure hunt and see, okay, where can I create more pleasure in my life? Where can I, give myself a massage? Where can I, touch myself in a way that feels good? How can I like hug myself? How can I talk to myself kinder? How can I nourish my body with foods that make me feel delicious and that make me feel healthy and that make me feel strong? Like how can I nourish myself? How can I nourish my senses so that my body is working for me? Because when we're working against our body, that's creating so much resistance, because our body is our home, and we should feel at peace here. But if we're not feeling at peace in our bodies, it's probably because we're abusing our senses, and we're probably, we've been taught to compare ourselves to other people, and so we're constantly thinking there's something wrong with our bodies, or that we shouldn't be feeling the way we're feeling, or that something must be wrong with me because this person looks like they feel this way, and it's just like you have to get really intimate with your own emotions and really understand that your experience is your own unique experience, and that you can't compare it to anybody else. Your experience is not meant to be compared to the neighbors next door. It's just not. And so instead of kind of looking where we can pleasure ourselves more, we kind of tend to be like, well, I wish I had what that person had, or I wish I had that, or because we think that it's going to make us feel good, right? And we like, oh, if I had that, I would feel so much better. And then it creates this like, I'm not happy with where I am now. I don't have enough. I'm not seeking the beauty that I possess right here in this very moment. I'm not seeking my own abundance. I'm thinking that it's coming from outside of me. And so then that's when we give our power away. When we begin to feel very out of control. But when we reunite with our senses, we really begin to feel this sense of control over our lives again, because we begin to, like I said at the beginning, you kind of have to like learn what overstimulates your senses. Maybe you need to cut back on watching TV, or because you know your vision is overstimulated. And think about every single, because our subconscious mind records everything we've ever seen, it records everything we've ever heard, it records everything we've ever tasted, it records everything we've ever smelled. Think about when you smell something and it triggers a memory, you know. Every time we've felt sensation or touch, whether it be pleasure or whether it be pain, we stored it in our subconscious mind. And so memories are stored in our body, and trauma and pain is stored in our body. So when we go exploring into those pains and those aches, that's our trauma, that's our tension. And trauma doesn't have to be being severely beaten or hit. Trauma could be repressed emotions that you've been repressing for 5, 10, 20, 15, 30 years, you know, and they're all stored in your shoulders, and you struggle from chronic pain in your shoulders and your neck, and those, when you begin to tend to those things and you begin to tend to those aches and pains, rather than masking them with medications or masking them with cigarettes or masking them with, you know, an immediate gratification, something that distracts your mind from that pain you're experiencing in your body, whether it's eating. A lot of people eat if they have a lot of emotional pain and their body's aching and their body's tired and they don't want to be in their body. Hey, that was me. You know, I would eat to relieve myself of that pain in my body that I was feeling, rather than tending to it, getting to the root of it and making it better, like healing it. And we can, the body is miraculous and the body can heal itself. All we have to do is create the time and space for our body to heal, to listen to our body. And when we reunite with our senses and we begin to come back to the present moment, we begin to listen to our senses again. It's like, oh, we're listening to our senses again rather than listening to the ego. Even though a lot of people will tell you that if you listen to your intuition, that it's not like sensible, it's not practical, and you're right, it's not, it won't always be that way. It's not meant to be. Like, you're meant to trust your sensations over what your mind might tell you, because like the ego, like I said, the subconscious mind records and stores everything. So maybe you felt pain, maybe you've been abused in a past lifetime, or maybe even in this lifetime you've been abused by someone you love deeply, like you were physically hurt or, you know, physically in pain. So every time, you know, your mind will want to go back and it'll try to protect you, because the ego also is like a defense mechanism that teaches us how to cope with that pain, that physical pain that we experience, so that we don't ever feel it again, because it hurt us so much originally. And so every time it senses like love, because we've associated love with pain or love with hurt, then it will want to protect you, and it will, like, your nervous system will begin, and you'll begin to feel that aching and that tension in your body again, as a way to be like, I'm experiencing something that I experienced in the past that I never truly allowed myself to feel, and it's happening now. And it'll feel like it's happening all over again. This is what shadow work is. It kind of, the pain and the emotion will feel so real, but you have to see that it's, you have to be so aware and so deeply connected to your body and your other senses that it anchors you while you feel this deep emotion that isn't necessarily coming from now or anything you're experiencing now, but is stored in your body from the past, when you never allowed yourself to originally feel the emotion. And this, we don't just store emotions from this lifetime, we store emotions from past lifetimes. So a lot of things can come up for people that, you know, they don't, there's no understanding. You can't understand why you're feeling this way. All you know is that you have to allow it out, and you have to express it, and you have to expel it in order for you to feel pleasure again. Because if you continue to resist the pain that you're feeling in your body, and you continue to mask it, it's just gonna build, and it's just gonna grow. It's gonna manifest, and it's gonna be like, I'm just seeing this wound and this pussy wound. Like, you have to tend to the pussy wound. Otherwise, if you just try to keep masking it and try to like not do anything with it, it's just gonna fester, right? That's the word, fester. It's gonna fester, and then it's gonna leak, and it's gonna ooze into other parts of your body, and it's gonna create disease in your body, and it's also gonna create some sort of like signal externally to say, hello, I need you to tend to me, and I need you to care for me. So really getting in tune to our senses allows for us to come back to our body and see, like, okay, you're feeling something here, or you're feeling something there, or you're feeling, your emotions are over here. It's like just allows you to become, you can take stock more of what's happening now rather than what's, your mind's not so caught up in the past, and your mind's not so like anticipating the future. It's right here with you, and it's working with you to help you stay very balanced and to work together as a team, because our mind, our ego isn't something that we want to get rid of. It's something that we want to tend to with love and care, and that's what it was originally intended for. Like, our parents were originally intended to nurture our ego and to make us have a really healthy ego. But if our parents didn't have healthy egos, how are they supposed to teach us how to have healthy egos, And a lot of this work isn't taught, and so like really learning how to use your mind to find the beauty. And as you begin to seek the beauty, whether it be the sound, because sound is beautiful, it's one of the most beautiful things, because think about how much violence we've seen, even through just watching the TV or watching the news, how much hatred we've seen, how much pain and violence we've seen, and we store all that, and our mind can become very, our mind is our internal world. So if our mind was filled with all this hate and all this judgment and all this pain and all this trauma that we see and we expose ourselves to, even if it's just for entertainment, we're using that as we create that in our internal world. If our internal world is filled up with all those images, then that's what we're going to create externally. And so a lot of people don't really understand that. So if you feel, or if you hear if you grew up hearing like a lot of violence or name calling, or like think of your environment, was it very loud? Like did you hear peaceful, gentle noises? Were you talked to very kindly and gently? And if not, how can you begin to speak to yourself in that way? Because what you're going to have to do is override those subconscious recordings. Every time you want to be really harsh toward yourself, you're going to have to hear it, and you're going to have to talk to yourself in a gentle way. And as you begin to practice this, every time you have harsh, judgmental thoughts about yourself, you have to bring yourself back and be nice to yourself. And as you do this, you just practice being kind to yourself. And as you do that, that repetition of that gentle, kind voice that you use to override the harshness will become more familiar, and that's the voice that will become louder, and that's the voice that will become the truth for you. So allowing yourself to create more peaceful, gentle noises will help you to override maybe those maybe you heard your parents fighting a lot, or maybe your just environment was chaotic. A lot of children are growing up in chaotic homes, like where people are arguing or people are just yelling and loud, or maybe they watch things on TV that are really loud. This overstimulates our hearing, and it's our hearing that really allows for us to, our hearing is very sensitive, and so being able to hear your body is really important. And when we can get into this silence, we can literally begin to hear our body speak to us through our spiritual hearing, which would be like our clairaudience. So our inner vision would be like our clairvoyance. And like I was saying, can we cultivate new beautiful images within ourselves? Like, can we begin to spend so much time in nature and connect to nature so deeply that those images of love and stillness and growth and beauty and strength and power and magnificence is what becomes our inner vision, and we create more of that from our internal world. So really using meditation and our inner vision and our clairvoyance to imagine beauty, to imagine, your beautiful body. Like, imagine your most beautiful body. It doesn't mean that you have to necessarily take action. Just visualize and imagine what it would feel like to feel good in your body, to feel good, to just feel good. And what would you be doing, and what would you be saying, and what would you be experiencing? What would the most pleasure-filled part of you be experiencing and hearing and seeing and saying and behaving? And then you just begin to behave like that, because it becomes your natural state again, and you're reuniting with your joy, you're reuniting with your senses, you're reuniting with pleasure again. And as you do that, you find, I've always loved nature, but as I began to really change my inner vision and focus on the beauty of the world, because I think that we need to point out the beauty, because if we do not point out the beauty, all we're going to see is the pain, guys. And if, like I said, the opposite of pain, the contrast of pain is pleasure. So we have to be pleasure warriors, and we have to create pleasure in every moment, because if we don't, this world will suck it out of us. I mean, it will suck us dry. So we have to really connect with our senses in order to feel that juiciness, to feel that aliveness, because we're alive, we're here, we're breathing, and we get to experience all these senses, and we get to experience all these beautiful things. So as I began to focus on the things that I love the most, it was nature. And so this really drew me back to how much I love nature, and how much that was a little treasure that was buried in me. I've always loved nature. I grew up going camping. I grew up like running outside barefoot. I love being barefoot. I loved having picnics outside. I just love being outside. I love campfires, everything about being outside. I'm all for it. And so I love nature. And so as I reunited with my senses, nature was one of the things that just made me feel so blissful, so beautiful, so strong, so powerful, so delicious. And the trees, they just ignite me. They make me feel this sense of strength and stability. And it was from Mother Nature that I was able to, reunite with that little goodie, that little treasure that was buried inside of me. And Mother Nature brings me so much pleasure, even if it's just going out for a walk. Even if I can't get outside and it's dead of winter, nature sounds on my phone, which I'm listening to now, like listening to birds chirping, listening, to the sounds of the ocean. Like, you can still connect to Mother Earth without physically being out in her, like, she's an energy we tap into. She's not just a physical thing, she's an energy. And so when we can really tap into that energy of Earth, we can use her as our anchor to see the beauty in the world again, because we've kind of forgotten. We get so caught up in all the pain and suffering because our mind is addicted to the stress and the chaos and the anger and the rage and the, I'm not denying that these things are happening. Of course they're happening, but like I said, in the midst of it all, we have to be able to find the pleasure. Taking our power back to our senses and feeling good again really helps us to take action on those things that are causing so much pain in the world. And we can use our voice to be, to sing into the world if we want to, or to create poetry, or to create beauty, to create art, and as we begin to enter into those senses again, that really allows for us to express the beauty that is within, and we have so much beauty within, if only we can tap into it. If only we can take the time to invest in, our senses, invest in our soul's home, and really begin to, don't you want your soul's home to feel the most beautiful, the most at peace, the most, you just want that sanctuary, you want that homey feeling, like that's a feeling we're meant to generate within ourselves, and it doesn't come from, decorating our home. Your home can feel that way with absolutely hardly anything, from the energy that you emanate, from the energy that you call into your home. So it's not about how much you decorate the outside of your home or how much you decorate the inside. It's the energy you're bringing into your home. And what does your home mean to you? And like, we get really clear on our bodies. What does this body mean for you? Like, why are you in this body? Like, really exploring your body more deeply. So before I ramble too much longer, I want to move on to the smell. So moving on to the nose. I love smell, guys. One of my favorite, most simple, sensual, and mindful practices to come back to my senses is cooking. Who knew, right? The most simple thing. And that's like, brings me so much pleasure, because I love, especially when I'm working with like earth foods, and it grounds me. I love, and you're getting so many senses from cooking. You're getting the beautiful, luscious colors of the vegetables, so you're getting your sight and your smell. When things are cooking, and it just fills your home, the aroma of your home. Yes, amen. I just love the smell of food. And then don't even get me started on taste, then tasting the food. Yes, all the textures, all the flavors, and really being mindful with your taste. So that's what I love. I love food. It's probably one of the most central practices for me. I love turning on some music, maybe dancing a little bit. You can even have a glass of wine if you want to, like, there's another sense. You can have those things in moderation, but if you're constantly abusing like wine, or because I used to drink like a bottle of wine, like a big one, or I had one of those wine glasses that held a whole bottle, and I would drink one and be like, okay, where's the next? So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it's like, do those things in moderation. You don't, and intend to your body in a healthy way, so that you don't overstimulate your senses, and then you just don't feel good. So anyway, like taste and smell. Like, I have coffee here. I made some decaf coffee. I love the smell of coffee. Sometimes I don't even drink the coffee. I honestly just like the smell of it, like brewing and, coming out of my cup. And then the taste. So that's why I invited you to bring something to drink, because one of my favorite practices too is like sitting. Just try this one time. Be very mindful. Make yourself a cup of tea or a cup of warm coffee, and just sit in a quiet place. and just observe the hot drink, touching your tongue, touching the roof of your mouth. Get so into it that, feel the warmth hit your lips, into your mouth, and then feel the warmth go down your throat and into your body, and like even into your stomach, and be so in tune to your body that, don't just like drink it mindlessly, really be mindful, be present with this cup of coffee, and feel the warmth go down, like that's, finding pleasure in the sensation or the smell. Sometimes I just like to cozy up and sniff it, like I love smelling things. You can also use essential oils, which are great diffusing essential oils in your home, or like I said, burning a candle. I love the smell of a good candle, and not only does it get your senses with the nose, but it's like the senses with your eyes. It kind of generates this like glowing feeling, this warmth feeling that allows you to like, I don't know, it's kind of like just a relaxing feeling. So doing things that bring you a sense of peace, or like if you like having different plants or getting different flowers in your home, that's another one for smell, is like the aroma of fresh flowers. That smells so delightful, doesn't it? Even smelling your cleaner, or like bringing your awareness back to your senses. And maybe you find, as you bring yourself back to your senses, wow, I really don't like the smell of that. That smells really awful. And like your senses will begin to strengthen, and your nose will be like, dang. And you can smell things in a whole new world, and like when you reunite with your vision, and you really are mindful, like you allow yourself to close your eyes. Like a lot of people have our eyes open from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to sleep. We don't allow ourselves to rest. Oh my gosh. And think about, because we're constantly absorbing everything in our environment, everything around us all the time. It's like, holy moly, I get overstimulated very quickly with vision, but my clairvoyance and my inner vision is very strong, and so I have to, take breaks, honestly. And like sometimes it's like I can create the feeling of sleep without going to sleep. I can just rest my mind, close my eyes, tune into my inner vision, turn into my inner hearing, and just be present with myself and be present with my body. I can hear my heart beating. So it's really important to come back to those feelings within yourself, and they anchor you. They act as an anchor. So when you come back to your sensuality and you really connect with your senses, you act as an anchor, and you feel really safe in your body. And actually, as I began this video before I started practicing, I've had a lot of fear stored in my body from expressing my truth, or expressing my voice, or expressing my pleasure, or expressing my sensuality in past lifetimes, and I've literally been hurt and even killed in some lifetimes for using my voice or for expressing this. And so where I've been abused, and my body has been hurt for this expression of myself, and I had to literally, because my body will get really nervous before I like public speak, or like I'm speaking on camera here, and I will, so I'll have to like, I just do a quick little meditation. I was really repeating to my body, like, you are safe here. It is safe for you to be here. You will not be hurt. And I was really, you just have to talk to your body. You talk to your body like it's your best friend. Talk to your body like it's your child, and really remind your body that it's safe here, that it belongs here, that it is okay to be here. It is okay to express itself, that it will not be punished. It will not be hurt. And I had to just tell myself over and over again that you will not be hurt. And this allowed my body to begin to relax, because I was generating thoughts of like, I was talking to myself, where my subconscious program was like, you're going to be hurt, you're going to be hurt, be scared, be scared, be scared, That gentle voice, I have to practice talking to it, and I override that fearful subconscious recording with a gentle, loving recording of, you're safe here. I'm here to protect you. You will not be hurt. It is safe for you to be here. It's safe for you to express yourself, and really using that as a way to calm yourself and bring you back to your body, back to your senses, and so that you're no longer allowing your mind or your ego to drive you, because our ego will, it will strap us into a seat, and it will take over the day for us. But when we really allow ourselves to come into our senses, especially right in the morning, at the beginning of the day, like I said, we anchor ourselves, and we allow our bodies and our minds to move in unison, and we feel this sense of unity. And what we're really coming back to is like unity consciousness, and knowing that we're not separate from anything, that we all feel and experience the same things through our sensations. We all experience the same feelings. We have different experiences that evoke those feelings or evoke those experiences, but ultimately we empathize with each other by deeply understanding our own feelings. And if we're deeply disconnected from our feelings and our sensations in our own body, we're not going to be able to empathize or relate to other people from a place of feeling or sensation. We're going to try to strictly relate to them from our mind or from our past. And this is very limiting. This doesn't allow ourselves to connect with people on a soul level. It limits us, and it only allows certain parts of us to be seen. We might hold certain parts of ourselves back. Like I was saying, there's a lot of shame around sensuality and expressing sensuality, because we're taught at a very young age to not touch our bodies, to not explore our bodies, that our private parts are bad. Like, even calling them private parts puts so much shame on our sacred body, like body parts. These are just body parts, and they're sacred and they're meant to be explored. So there's so much shame around like masturbation or touching yourself or self-pleasure. And this is really deep, like religious conditioning that we store in our subconscious mind. We may have had past lifetimes where that has happened, or we may have just lived in a lifetime where, you know, those things weren't acceptable. They're kind of still not acceptable. They're still very taboo, and like it evokes a lot of uncomfortable feelings within me to express that part of my sensuality, because it's so foreign to people. Like I said, they're not used to feeling pleasure. They're used to, like, they think pain is normal, and so feeling pleasure is like irresponsible, or, you know, it's not worthy, or it's not valuable in some way. But your pleasure is so valuable, and it will make you feel so valuable. When you reunite with your senses, you value yourself so much. And like I said, you don't allow yourself to abuse your senses anymore, you know, like, especially with like hearing and seeing your body. You're no longer punishing your body by calling it names or by putting it down or pointing out its flaws. Like, you're literally shifting your relationship with yourself, with your body, by beginning to talk to yourself in new ways, and pointing out your beauty, and pointing out your, you know, you're pointing out the things that you love about yourself, rather than like putting yourself down all the time. Because when we do that to ourselves, we're going to honestly put the people down the people that are in our life. We're going to try to put them down as a way to make ourselves feel better, even if we're unconsciously doing this. We're going to, you know, if we're picking out other people's flaws, if we're really good at picking out other people's flaws and really judgmental, it's because we're really good at picking out our own flaws and being really judgmental about ourselves. So how can we shift that so we're not so judgmental to other people? We stop being so judgmental towards ourselves. And that really happens when every time we hear a judgmental thought, we overwrite it with a new, gentle, loving thought. That allows for us to then begin to speak to people from a more gentle place, a more loving and nurturing and kind place, because we're creating that, we're talking to ourselves in that way. So another thing, like I was talking about smell and taste, but this is another thing that I'm smelling that I get a little ranty. But I have a cutie today, so that's what I brought for my snack. I love the juiciness. I love it feels like a sunshine explosion in my mouth. That's one thing I love about cuties. Are like it's just an orange fruit too. Sometimes you can be drawn to different colored foods as a way to signal to you what chakra you're healing. And it's our chakras that we store all of our energetic storage. So if we experience any pain, like any sexual trauma, especially because if we're reuniting with our senses and our sensuality, if we've ever been like reconnecting with that part of us, might bring up a lot of fear, and so we might not want to explore that part of ourselves. So if it was something like self-esteem or anything like that, it would be like the sacral chakra, and the sacral chakra is associated with the color orange. So really, eating orange foods can really help to actually heal this energetic part of you, as long as you're doing it with intention, you know, and you're intending that you're eating these foods as a way to help heal you. And then that can be one way that you really reunite with your senses, is by really forming a healthy relationship to your food. So one sense that I've used the most was probably taste. I love eating. I had a food addiction, and I just used food as a way to escape my emotions. So, but really reuniting with my taste has been so interesting, and I've changed my, you know, like your palate, your taste palate can like change, and your food, the foods you used to like or you used to crave, you no longer crave those because you have a different relationship with your senses. And really getting into, like, I practiced intuitive eating. So one of the things that happened for me is that I would just begin to observe the thoughts and the feelings I was having while I was eating food. And one thing that I recognized, especially going vegetarian, was that like eating animals evoked a lot of pain within me because, and it wasn't pain, it was their pain. I was feeling their pain because what I do with food, and one of the greatest practices with food, in my opinion, is being so present with your food and like giving thanks for your food while you're eating it. So you can even go back, like it's gratitude. So giving thanks for, the farmer who maybe planted that food, or giving thanks to the person who packaged that food. Like you can go all the way back, giving thanks, and then you get back to the animal. So this is what would happen to me. I would like be giving thanks, eating the meat, and then I would begin to realize, wow, this animal had to experience a lot of pain in order to make it here to my plate, and I'm just feeding myself pain. So our food is really information, and if any of those animals, that we're eating have experienced pain and when they were, being slaughtered, which almost all of them are, or experienced any kind of suffering while they were being raised in inhumane, factories and stuff like that, if they felt any sort of pain, like that information is stored in their cells, it's stored in their body, and then we're eating their body, so we're downloading that information. And it says, wow, I felt a lot of pain when I was turned into food. And so then this really turned me off to eating food, because all I kept thinking about while I was eating the meat would be pain or suffering in some sort. And so for me, it's been about like compassion and really finding pleasure in what I'm eating. So I just had to wean myself off, literally, because I had developed a taste for meat, and I really loved meat, and I craved meat, and I would smell meat cooking. I still sometimes enjoy the smell of meat cooking, but it's something that like I just can't, because I can't find the pleasure in eating it, because it feels so contradicting. It feels like this battle within me, like I don't believe that this animal should have suffered just in order for me to eat. It's just my own personal, I'm not saying that if you eat animals there's anything wrong with you. No, nothing like that. It's just as I began to become more intuitive and more in tune to my senses, and I actually listened to the information I was receiving from those senses, I was able to, there's another thing, I unburied another little treasure, that I like to eat vegetarian, or I prefer a plant-based meat diet. So that was a little treasure that I uncovered, something I never thought that I would ever be a vegetarian in my life, honestly. I can tell you that. I grew up eating meat and potatoes, guys. I'm from Iowa. I think we're like the #1 pig farmer in the United States. So I definitely grew up eating meat. I developed a taste for it. Like I said, I sometimes still like the smell, but as I began to download the information from my senses and was present with my food and listening, and I wasn't like just survival, because the ego mind, I think a lot of reasons that we eat animals was purely for survival, and so I think it's a very survival way of eating, and it's very ego, it's aware. So like my intuition, like I said, my senses, it's not something that agreed with it. So that was something I had to eliminate, and in order to take care of my senses, because we have to take care of our senses just like their children, and if we really want those senses to be strong, and we want to really live in alignment with what our senses are telling us, because our senses are our soul, so really listening to our senses really teaches us how to have a relationship with our soul. And if it's something that doesn't bring us pleasure, then we have to be willing to eliminate it. Or if it's something that only brings us temporary pleasure, but then at the end, like, okay, so drinking, it's one of those, yeah, it feels good in that moment, and you whatever, and then maybe the next day it does not feel so good. And so like really recognizing, okay, is it worth it? And then like, I don't want to abuse my senses, so not allowing, and then making that choice to tend to your sense, like it's your little child, and like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that to you today, because I know that, I want to nurture you, not to deplete you or abuse you. So we're learning not how to punish ourselves and not abuse ourselves anymore, but to really nourish ourselves and pleasure ourselves. So intuitive eating has really helped me to reunite with my love of food. I love food, guys. Who doesn't love food, right? But like I said, I was abusing it, so I was very unhealthy. I was overweight, and I was abusing food that wasn't even good, like fast food and stuff like that, so it wasn't nourishing my body at all. And like I said, I love eating fruit, getting outside, connecting with your feet on the grass, because touch is one of the most beautiful sensations. And the next one I'm going to move into, because I've done sight, sound, smell, taste. Yeah, now we're on to touch. And I brought a little prop for touch, and this is a feather. I love finding feathers. I collect feathers. because they're little messages from my angels. So when I go on walks in nature, I always collect them. And I love, one of my favorite things, especially when I go for walks, is even if I just pick like a dandelion, or like I said, like a feather, or anything like a leaf, I love to like just have it in my hand. And when I have an element of earth in my hand, it just helps me feel really grounded. It just helps me feel really connected to my senses once again. So and I just love, I don't know, I just love feathers. And so one of my favorite things to do is literally, okay, I usually love to dance and just like and I would do this shirtless, honestly, or like, because like rubbing it on your nipples, like the sensations, and rubbing it on your skin. You can like put on some, you know, sexy music. You could put on some lingerie if you're a woman, if you're a man, or you could just completely get naked if you want to go wild and free. I'm all for that. If you want to get naked and just, you know, and just dance and be with your body. Watch how the parts of your okay, if you're a woman and you understand this, like just watch the parts of your body that jiggle. Like just jump up and down, dance, like get freaky and wild, and like see how many times you want to like be disgusted by yourself, or you want to shame yourself, or like you're like, ugh, like I don't like the way my body looks like when I jiggle, you know, like, and really beginning to laugh at yourself and find that love for yourself again, rather than being like, oh, you're so, like, saying those mean things to yourself, or like, I need to change my body, like, just accepting yourself for who you are. And like I said, like, it just feels good to like rub yourself with anything. You could use whatever you want, like this, like I said, I love feathers. You can just use your hands too, but you know, it's always fun to add some props or to get kind of playful. It might seem like a little weird if you've never done it before, but it truly is just like, it's so innocent too. It's like, it doesn't have to come from this place of like, I don't know, like lust. You know, there's a difference between like lust and like pleasure, and really like pleasuring yourself and just like feeling good and like wanting to turn yourself on. Like you should be wanting to turn yourself on. And girls, you're so powerful. Like you don't need a man to turn you on. You can get yourself all nice and juicy, all on your own, and that makes you actually really attractive, is really cultivating and creating your own pleasure. So like you can put on lipstick, you can put on anything that makes you feel good. Maybe you want to put on some heels. Just like light the mood, get yourself like, I don't know, light some candles if you want, and just maybe pour yourself a glass of wine if that's something you like, and just really be with your body. What makes you feel good? Does it feel good to touch yourself? Another thing I'm going to show you, like I said, I would take off my shirt, but I'm really, you know, that's kind of illegal, which, okay, this is a whole other thing that I just want to bring up because it really gets me going with like the inequality, is that you know, there's so much shame around breasts, because this is actually another thing I want to talk about, because I'm just going to rub my breast right on here. Like if I can rub my breasts on YouTube, you can do this in the privacy of your own home, and love yourself for it. But really actually massaging our breasts, so I'm going to tell you, we have an energy field. It's like an arc line from one nipple to the other. Every woman does. So, and this is like, you know, our breasts are so sensitive, guys. And that's what breasts are made for. They're not made to be objectified and sexualized. You know, breasts aren't like that at all. They're so intelligent. Your breasts, ladies, they're so intelligent. And it doesn't matter if they're big or if they're small or if they're in between or if they're uneven. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. They're so intelligent. And we can and breast massage is not only great for, you know, checking yourself for lumps and bumps, because that's really important to do as women, but that's another thing I want to talk about, is the shame of women's breasts is the energetic root cause of breast cancer, and why breast cancer is so common here, especially in America, is because we've been shamed, we've been taught that somehow our breasts are indecent, you know, that, you know, men's breasts, you know, they can be shown, they can wear their shirts off, but women's, no, they're sexualized, and if you don't cover up, then you're basically just like, that somebody has a right to come up and just like touch you or to comment on your breasts, and it's just like, no, that's not the case. This place is so diluted, you know, it's so, women's bodies have just been objectified. So yeah, this is just, it's also great to just show yourself love, and actually this has been shown to help with breast growth. So even if you are insecure about the size of your breast, it's okay. You know, I always was like, oh, I'm so flat chested, and you know, but now I just don't care. I'm like, yeah, I haven't worn a bra in like 2 years, and so there's perks to having small breasts too. If you're one of those women who have always like, oh, I wish I had bigger boobs, you know, like, it's all good, girl. Love your breasts. They're meant to be yours for a reason. So this is just one great way that you can really create a lot of like sensual. It's like a great, think about like foreplay. So you're really just turning yourself on. You're making yourself feel good. And another one of my favorites is being with my belly, because our belly is probably one of the biggest things that we shame as women. It's never perfect enough. It's too saggy. It's too big or whatever. And so we're really hard on our stomachs. But this is the seat of our personal power. This is the place of our strength. And it's like the core of our being. And this is where we create life, especially as women. And even if that's something that you're not able to do, or it doesn't make you any less of a woman. I had a past lifetime where I was barren and I was unable to, me and a soulmate were together and we were deeply in love and it was beautiful, and we had like this homestead and we were so excited to have lots of children to help us take care of this, because in that day and age we had to be able to really have a family to help us take care of all the land and to do chores and to like create a profit and live off the land. And we tried, I remember and it was, in a time where we didn't have doctors that I could go and understand why I wasn't getting pregnant, but I feel like I had a lot of miscarriages and I was actually ended up not being able to have children, and he left me and I died, we died separated even though we didn't want to be separated. He did it because it was logical and he needed to be able to provide for himself. And so this really took a toll on my self-worth. And because I wasn't able to have children, that I was somehow less of a woman. And so this kept my womb energy, because there's a difference between our physical womb and the energy of our womb. And the energy of my womb had experienced a lot of pain and abuse. And so over that trauma and over that pain and that blockage in my sacral chakra, I had created disease in my womb space, and that's why I was unable to have children in that lifetime. So, yeah, like I said, and then I had to really learn that my worth in this lifetime doesn't come from that, and I really had to heal my womb so that I was able to have children in this lifetime. So I think it's really important to really, nourish our bellies and really connect deeply to our bellies and to love our bellies. Even, they're not perfect. Our bellies aren't going to be perfect. Even if they are, maybe you have the perfect belly, then good for you. That's amazing. And love on it. Treat it with so much respect and love. And we can end with just giving yourself a hug. This is another great way you can just connect to your body and give thanks for your body, give thanks for your senses. And I hope that this was healing for you. I hope it was helpful for you. I hope it helps you to reunite with your senses. And I'm sending you so much love. Take care. I'll be back next week.